Nothing like the suppertime sights and sounds of savory, scrumptious food filling the kitchen with the passing and preparation of plates.
Like the cheese is that where are my potatoes?
Sitting at the head of the dinner table, the matriarch, 88-year-old Catherine Katsanos.
15 years now.
That's how long it's been since Catherine received a kidney from a donor. Her father, Dennis, survived the Nazi invasion of Greece, but because medicine wasn't advanced at the time, he did not survive polycystic kidney disease. The inherited condition was passed down to Catherine, who had a transplant, and unfortunately, Catherine's son, Bill, developed the same kidney disease.
My experience was mainly back pain, low back pain, and cysts rupturing, which were extremely painful, and followed by migraines.
And working as a waitress in Bill's restaurant 16 years ago, Tara Espinoza, before she became a mom to these two boys. One day, the college student saw the normally fun-loving Bill sitting in the break room with the lights off, not feeling well.
I walked away from the conversation learning, how sick he was, and I kind of felt bad for him. I was like, how can I help?
Her words turned into actions. She took a blood test, and amazingly, she was a match for Bill. Her concern turned into compassion and determination.
It's a little bit scary, but I can actually do this and help somebody. I can save a life.
But some of Tara's family members had a lot of questions and concerns.
I had family like, did you think about this? Did you do your research? I don't know if this is a great idea. And I was like, well, I did do my research. You learn that your kidney grows twice the size, that you can actually be fully functional and healthy with one kidney.
We ask and pray for miracles every day, and this was my miracle.
Oh.
So even though Bill and his mom have donated kidneys,
sometimes if I'm walking, it's like a stabbing pain.
Catherine's daughter, Mary, who's also Bill's sister, is on the transplant list, still waiting for one.
I'm stage 4, and I will be starting dialysis in the coming year to give someone an organ, or you want to get on the donor list. I think, people should think seriously about it.
Because you can still survive with one kidney.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have a strong, healthy life.
As we see with Tara.
As we see with Tara, yeah.
And Tara has this message for people who are thinking about becoming tested as living donors.
If you're a match and you want to help save somebody's life, just do it.
As they flip through the family album, that's what Bill wishes for his sister. More moments, more memories and photos.
It's tough on her. I know what I went through, and I see what she goes through.
Yes.
With her other daughter translating, Catherine's English might be limited, but her love for Mary is unlimited, unending and unbounding. It's tough to hold back the tears.
Day and night, I have hopes that she will have a kidney one day.
And that's what Mary is hoping for herself, hoping for the gift of time.
My hope is that I'm as lucky as my brother and my mother and my aunties to get kidney.
You'd never know, looking at this athletic 11-year-old girl doing backflips on her trampoline before cheer practice, that she was battling cancer just a few years ago. Her mom, Brandy, is her biggest cheerleader.
Spirit fingers.
As they celebrate life without cancer for the past 5 years. She says this milestone means Ren is essentially cured with little chance of relapse.
To see her go from not being able to lift her head off a pillow to now she's a competitive cheerleader, she sings in a chorus, she's on student council, she does a lot of flippity-doo-dahs on the trampoline. It's humbling, and it's something I'm never going to take for granted.
But when Ren was diagnosed with leukemia at just 3 years old.
You were only 3 years old?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so that's so scary, right?
Really scary.
Brandy wasn't sure she'd see this day.
There were pictures of her when she was just so pale and had no energy, couldn't catch her breath even.
One picture was turned into this painting, now hanging in their living room, serving as a reminder of the struggle of 2.5 years of treatment and the joy in overcoming it.
I think it's a mixed emotions because of how grateful I am that she's still here. And how easily that could not be our story.
Now, as they sift through a collection of stuffed unicorns,
this one Uncle Bubba gave you.
Yeah.
They say these fluffy guys represent much more than cute mythical creatures.
When I was little, I needed a bunch of blood,
and a nurse walked in and with a big bag of blood, and I was terrified of it because I was 3, and the nurse recognized that, and she said, "Don't worry, it's unicorn juice. It's going to make you feel better," and it did.
The Red Cross says blood, or unicorn juice, is needed by people every 2 seconds in the U.S. Ren was one of those people, and she needed a lot of it.
She needed 17 blood transfusions just that first year of treatment, just to get through the chemo that we were giving her.
But the Red Cross says not nearly as many people are giving blood as they have in the past. 40% fewer, in fact, over the past 2 decades. Something this mother-daughter duo is hoping to change by continuing to share their story.
Even as a nurse, it's really struck home to me that, I never really thought about where the blood came from. But strangers were there for my daughter, so now it's our mission to make sure more people give blood, because it's only a small part of the population that can donate blood actually do donate blood.
I'm really grateful for people who give blood because they basically saved my life.
If you drove by this camper on Big Laurel Road, you wouldn't think anything of it, unless you live in Creston.
We have a makeshift gas station because in the beginning, we needed to be able to fuel generators, and a lot of people had used all the gas in their cars. They had siphoned them out to run their generators. This one was full of diesel.
The camper that a friend let her borrow started as a place for people to go use Starlink to communicate with family.
So these are the jobs that we still have that need to be completed.
Then the donations came pouring in.
Everything from materials to medicine, power bills, food. These are ones that we've already completed.
Jordan Forsyth's camper quickly became a hub where people could ask for help.
Some of our personal stuff.
People like Patricia Mahaffey.
The mud in there was up to the top of the door, and they cleaned all this out here, and so that's about how high.
Patricia and her husband were hunkering down at home when things got bad.
And water was coming down this way, but it hadn't got up over our porch. But when it did, we decided to move, to go away.
They hopped in their car and tried to leave, but the road was washed out. The Mahaffeys were trapped. They backed up a neighbor's driveway and watched as water surrounded their home.
We saw all the people up above us stuff come down our backyard, cross the road, and into the creek. And then our propane tank washed away, and it went across the road, hit the highway, and the valve came up and all the propane came out. I had 400 and some gallon of propane. My husband was out there trying to tie our lawnmower up, and the water was just so bad. And I told him that if it can wash a propane tank, it can wash him.
She got him back in the car, and they waited, watched to see if their home would float away. Thankfully, it didn't, but mud inside caused major problems.
We've got fans drying out the mud. We've still got a lot of mud under our house. It's drying out.
Destroying their heat pump. Their deck was torn off the house.
I was just numb, and me and my husband decided we could never live here again. And it was just I was just there.
2 of their buildings behind damaged from a landslide.
See where the mud was at up on the door of my can house. It just recently I come out here. I couldn't bear to come out here. Our yard was full of people's things.
Sinkholes opened. The list just goes on.
Our bank would just go up and down. It was so scary.
Now, weeks later, they're starting to feel a little bit normal, thanks to the help organized by Jordan.
If I can get it up, the dirt and the mud.
This new deck was built by a volunteer. This flooring, brand new, and walls in this room ripped out and fixed. And they are sleeping here, inside this donated camper, while the work continues.
My uncle built this house, and he was a Baptist preacher, and he built this house. And I lived across the road.
Because once help started, they refused to give up. Mahaffey said this 100-year-old home meant too much to let go.
That it went down. Another big donation was our heat pump, propane heat pump. And I think she, was the one who got that for us too.
Jordan, helping dozens in the Creston community.
Just sweet, nice, and we love her.
Her love spreading so far, the camper is called the Love Shack. She actually lives around 20 minutes away in Jefferson, but felt the need to help.
I do have a connection now. My heart's in Creston, but I wanted to help where I could do the most good.
Looking for an area where the people needed it most.
The average income of a family of 4 here is $25,000 a year or less, so it's very low. But this is a beautiful part of the world to live in.
With many inheriting their homes.
They don't have a structure of government that can advocate for them. Several generations people have been living on this home and this land and the property, and that's why there aren't a lot of insurance policies in this part of the county.
So when the storm came through this area, she knew she needed to help.
Very violent. I mean, it moved mountains.
The moment she realized she wanted to do more was seeing church members mucking out their building.
This is how high the water came.
And seeing just how big this normally shallow river became.
When they would do baptisms, they'd have to come out from the church and dig out a hole and hurry up and baptize before it would fill in again. I mean, these are supposed to be really shallow, beautiful, clear trout streams.
So she hasn't stopped finding new ways to help, connecting those who need the help with people who have the means to provide it. Everything from families to farmers.
Everything is hilly and mountainous here. It's a hard life farming here to begin with.
She's helped get hay for horses, food for dogs, and equipment to rebuild homes.
Come in this door, and it come in this back door.
So people like Mahaffey can return home, which she's hoping to do in a few weeks.
There's big hope for us. We're getting there.
In the weeks after Helene, it's not surprising to see heavy equipment on the side of the road working. In our travels through Lansing, in the state's northwest corner, we learned many of those machines are being run by volunteers.
So focusing in on one niche, we think we can make a bigger impact.
Emily Davis, her husband,
came this morning on y'all's rollback, right?
Friends are bringing in all of the volunteers to help. Help Joseph Holmes is thankful for.
There's water from wall to wall, hill to hill.
If you look past this footbridge high up on the hill, you can see his home.
The water came down through and that hit them trees there. Big pile of stuff there, and it cut the water around and it just dug that out.
He watched as the water tore this bridge straight out of the creek.
Had them big logs on it, still picked it up and carried it. I had 2 cables on it, one on each end, on each side. It broke them loose just like it was nothing.
The heavy bridge floated across the yard.
We're going to come and set in, but now I got to get your elevations to figure out what your finished bridge height's going to be.
Okay.
Leaving him trapped.
Yeah.
Rangers came and built this footbridge, but he couldn't drive over the bridge.
Yeah, I'm stuck right here. Big tree right there and broke that tree.
Until hope arrived.
It's been years before we got anything done.
With the creek now wider than before, his old bridge is too small.
Yes, it is. It's hard on everybody. Well, I so appreciate y'all doing that now.
That's where Emily came in.
Yellow needs recon, so we didn't know anything about that. You know, we had a number 12 in the notebook, and it had the person's name and phone number if we had it, and a description of what's needed there.
Emily is a structural engineer.
Steer that can haul, 12,000 pounds, or we need heavy.
After Helene, she came with a group of friends on side-by-sides to deliver supplies. That's when they started throwing water across the streams and realized these folks need a bigger lifeline.
Concrete V-block.
They need bridges, They started a group called Lansing's Bridge to Recovery. Emily came up with the concept for the bridges, and they are organizing all the volunteers that are coming in to bring them to life.
I think we've completed 54 or 56 to date, but that's not just bridges. So that could be culverts, it could be driveways that were rutted out, or roads, but all private access.
And the needs are growing every day.
Our list right now is somewhere between 240 and 260.
They are jumping in and getting as many done as they can.
It's a passion project for sure.
Still, they need manpower and companies willing to donate equipment and supplies.
These bridges that we're building, I mean, they cost $40,000 to $100,000, even up to $200,000 for some of these bridges if you were to have to pay for them. And most of these people cannot afford that.
People tell us insurance isn't covering their bridges. FEMA started a new program to help, but the process can be slow. They need help now.
Storm came overnight, and before they had a chance to get their vehicles from one side of their bridge to the other, the bridge was gone.
This group is reconnecting people to the rest of their lives, all funded by donations.
Yeah, everything we've done so far has been for free.
And motivated by care.
We're in it because we want to help our neighbors and we want to see this county put back together. We all live here and we love this county and we love the people.
As Dr. Mandy Cohen walks into a room of CDC staffers, it has the feel of a first day of school. Hi. Employees assessing the new boss, the boss hoping to get to know her team, an agency that consists of 20,000 staffers around the world. This is the first gathering of what Cohen's calling Meetups with Mandy, a laid-back gathering she hopes to replicate. The internal medicine physician, mother of two, who regularly wears a Hebrew high necklace, meaning life, had early inspiration to get into the medical field. Her mom was a nurse practitioner.
I saw how her work really impacted not just the person she was serving, but their families and then communities.
We joined Cohen in Atlanta at the CDC's headquarters shortly after President Joe Biden chose her as director, replacing Dr. Rochelle Walensky, who recently stepped down.
What was it about the CDC that made you say, I want to get back into the public sector?
So when an opportunity to lead an agency whose mission is to protect the health of this nation and frankly the world, it was easy to get to yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Cohen became a household name in North Carolina, leading the state's Department of Health and Human Services during the height of the COVID pandemic. At every turn, Cohen, armed with her graphs and preaching what were known as the 3 W's, spoke to North Carolinians through constant press conferences. She gained respect from both sides of the aisle in this politically purple state.
While we saw trust go down in lots of institutions, we actually saw trust increase in North Carolina. So we measured trust in the Department of Health and Human Services, and we saw that increase.
But being trustful is not something the agency she now heads has recently become known for. A study published in March by Health Affairs found 26% of Americans in a survey last year did not have a lot of trust in the CDC.
Do you think, though, there were things that could have been done differently at the CDC?
Folks have been very clear that the CDC did lose trust. There were some early places where the CDC did not perform and execute in the way that they needed to.
The agency was criticized during the Trump administration for becoming political and moving too slow on COVID, while under the Biden administration it was condemned for not communicating clear guidance on COVID. Cohen says she plans to focus on transparency, execution, and building relationships with the public, health leaders, and politicians, Democrat and Republican. In Congress, House Republicans are looking to make significant cuts to the CDC in the budget.
Just like we have a military to protect us here and around the world, we need a CDC that can protect us. We cannot see those cuts and have the national security asset we need here at the CDC.
A threat to national safety could play out this winter. Cohen says she's closely watching the risk of a triple-demic, a mix of the flu, RSV, which the CDC recently approved a vaccine to be administered to people of some ages, and COVID, which Cohen tells us the CDC will likely issue guidance on in September for how often to get vaccinated.
We anticipate that what COVID will become is similar to what we're seeing with flu shots, where it's going to be you get your annual flu shot and you get your annual COVID shot.
Convincing all Americans to get a shot is the challenge.
I'm very worried about folks not vaccinating their kids. There's plenty of other things that are hard as parents that we can't do. This is one that we can. Nice to meet you.
In many ways, the job of a government agency head is part policy and part communicator. Cohen is doubling down on the latter, trying to create a camaraderie within a worldwide agency, while aiming to restore trust in medicine and in a place where the goal is about saving lives. In Washington, Reuben Jones, Spectrum News 1.